And getting your mics. If it's not working, I don't know why, so we'll work on that another day.
County Commission to order. First order of business is the invocation by Commissioner Ricky Jones and Commissioner Tommy Little. Lead us in the pledge. Please stand.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessings that you have given us, and we thank you for this opportunity to come together as stewards of Williamson County and the state of Tennessee. We ask that you be with us tonight as we discuss business that may affect the citizens of our county, and that each of us may take this business seriously. At this time, we would like to ask blessings upon several families in our county that lost loved ones. We'd like to be with Specialist Eden's family. We'd like to be with Coach Gamble's family, and we'd like to be with Ron Tropower's family. We ask that you be with these families that lost these loved ones recently, and lay a healing hand upon them and be with them and comfort them any way that you can, in any way as we as citizens can. Be with us through the rest of this meeting. We ask your blessings upon each of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Push your button back. I don't want to vote.
All right. We're ready to try this thing out. For roll call. And I don't understand this. If you're present, push your yes button. If you're not present, it says push your no button. We won't do that. Yes, you would need to confirm it. There we go. Record the vote. Mr.
Jones absent, Commissioner Ernie Williams absent.
And they have both notified us, and they're unable to attend. So, all right. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the March 12th County Commission meeting. Copies were mailed to each county commissioner. I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Little, Mr. Langston, the second. All in favor of those minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? They've passed as written. Also, introduction and acceptance of the Highway Commission minutes and copies were mailed to each county commissioner. I entertain a motion. Commissioner Hayes, Commissioner Little, the second. There be no corrections. If you're in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And those minutes are accepted. Do citizens communication? Okay. Next item is citizens communications. We would like for you to, when your name is called, come forward and state your name and address. For the record, our rules call, we limit it to 3 minutes per person. The first one I have is Kenneth Whited. Come forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Whited. I live at 1324 Ascot Lane, Franklin, Tennessee. And what I want first of all, thank you for you letting me come up here and talk to you a little bit about my problem that I have, maybe it is, or our problem. On Monday, April the 30th, they had an article in the Tennessean about school bus drivers. I am a school bus driver. And so, ever since I've been working there, we've had problems with getting school bus drivers. We just don't never have enough of them. I was hired in at August 24th of 2006. And we was anywhere between 14, which we are now, short, all the way up to 20 drivers short. It's always we're running extra people to do extra work constantly. And I think some of the issues is that one of the issues that I see that we're having a problem with is that if you look at our special school district has always had the agenda of enough employees. And one reason is they get paid a whole lot more than us. If you kind of look at what they get paid, they have a scale of a pay scale of 1 year to 25 years at a hiring date. We have a scale in the county, a 4-level scale. Starts at 0 and it goes to 4 levels. If I was working for the city school district right now, the Williamson County Special School District, I would be making $2.14 more an hour with the same amount of years that I have right now. If a new hire come in today from another state or just a new hire with 6 years experience like I have, they would be making 74 cents more an hour. I called and I asked different people what the problem is. Why can't I get paid the same as a new hire? They said, because I'm not a new hire. I said, what does that have anything to do with why I can't get paid? They said, because I'm not a new hire. I said, if I quit today and was hired back tomorrow, they said they'd hire me at the new level of pay scale. I can't figure that out. I've talked to everybody that I know to talk to that would call me back. And another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that if we drive for a field trip, our field trip pay is flat $10 an hour. I'm hired in, a new hired in would be $13.30 an hour. If he takes a field trip, he gets paid a flat $10 an hour. Is a child worth more on a field trip or local than on a field trip taking them somewhere? I mean, I've drove children all the way to Knoxville. I've driven them to Chattanooga. I've driven them all over Middle Tennessee using GPS where I'm going 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning for flat $10 an hour, and it's your children that I'm driving. You've got a lot of good people that's driving these school buses, anywhere between airplane pilots, vice presidents of retired that was from different companies, all the way down to farmers. I used to be a bread man. Matter of fact, I was a colonial bread man for 30 years that I delivered to every store and school in Williamson County. But they said for driving this colonial bread truck, it wasn't justified because I didn't have a CDL license. But still yet, if you take a brand new person that's never driven a truck before in his life, he's going to be hired in more than I'm making right now. I don't understand. And I see several people that's here that knows what we go through because I see them out there with their children when we go on field trips. Another thing I wanted to bring to your attention besides that was we get paid.
Mr. Whitehead, we need to wrap it up.
Okay. Well, I thank you for your time. Appreciate you, okay? Thank you.
Next citizens' communication is Roger Lloyd.
Could I pass a map out real quick? Or is that allowed?
Yeah, bring it to me, and we'll pass it. All right.
I appreciate all the hard work that the staff and everybody has put into the rezoning. And what I just want to talk about is just a very small area that I own a piece of property, and this is the corner of Henpeck Lane and Lewisburg Pike. And I think there may be enough maps to go around for everybody to look at. But I'll go ahead and go through this since I only have a short period of time. Up at the very top of this map is Henpeck Market. That's a 8,500 square foot building. And then if you come down here, there's a vacant lot, and that's the lot I own. And it's 1.3 acres. Then there's a strip shopping center. It's 15,000 square feet, and then a small office building at the very bottom. And then if you go down 1,000 more yards, you get to Barry's Farms. This is a commercial area, and it's been zoned suburban for 20 years. Initially, the county proposed to zone this MGA1, which no commercial is allowed at all. At the March meeting, the Planning Commission changed this to MGA Hamlet. We asked for Village because the Village has about the same amount of uses as suburban. But the main difference between the new proposed zoning and what we used to have here is that suburban allowed really 11,000 square foot maximum size building. Okay, Village allows 10,000 square feet of maximum size building, and Hamlet, where we are in now, only allows 5,000 square foot. So we have been reduced from about 10,000 down to 5,000 square feet in our property rights. And the reason I think that the staff is because this is in the urban growth boundary. And if you just look, most people, if they just look at that, they naturally think, well, the city of Franklin's going to annex this in 2 or 3 years, and they'll do with it what they want to. Well, I've talked to four officials of the city of Franklin, and they have no plans at all to annex this in the next 10 years because they're just not the users are just not there to support annexation in the sewer. But our future plan was, we bought this 8 years ago, and we knew Berry Farms was coming in, and we think that once this is developed, our property will be worth, and the other property will be worth 300% to 400% more than it is now. And limiting the maximum size building we are allowed just greatly reduces our opportunities and our flexibility that we have in the future, and it really reduces our property value because of that. And we are not asking to get something we don't already have, to get something in addition to what we already have. We're just asking that the county does not take away 50% of the size building that we can put up, which would greatly reduce the value of our property. Thank you.
Did you state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry, Roger Lloyd, 833 Maxwell Court, Nashville.
Thank you. This concludes citizens' communication. Next item on the agenda is communications and messages. We have two late filed resolutions tonight. Resolution number 31, and both of these are in your packet. If there's no objections, we'll hear that at the end of other, I believe where it's at. Yeah, and then 32, if there's no objections, we'll hear that at the end of appropriations. If I see none, so 31 will be at the end of other, and 32 will be at the end of appropriations. Also, I've been asked to move, Steve, what's that, number 10? Okay. If it's okay, we've been asked to move Resolution 51210, and we'll move that, if there's no objections, up under the first one under appropriations, if everybody's okay with that. There's several people here for that resolution, and if there's no objections, we'll get that moved on. So I see none. So we'll hear 51210, first item under appropriations. All right. Next is also I wanted to thank Deputy Chris Wallace, Chief Deputy Dusty Rhodes, and Deputy Borland for being here. Appreciate y'all here, and hope we entertain you. So, moving on, the next is County Mayor Rogers Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I ask David to come up and give us a state of the county, there's two things I'd like to do. First of all, in our group, in our midst tonight, we very seldom have the mayor of Franklin down here. Dr. Ken Moore is with us, so I'd like to recognize and tell him thanks for coming on down. He can always come back. Thank you. And the other thing is we've got a special recognition from our State House, Charles Sargent and Glenn Cassida, and Senator Jack Johnson. If they would come up along with Dennis Anglin, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Mr. Chairman, if I'm recognized, Jack Johnson, State Senator for Williamson County, it's my honor to be joined by Representatives Charles Sargent and Glenn Cassida and our Property Assessor Dennis Anglin. We, at the request of Charles Sargent in the House, have passed a resolution through the Tennessee General Assembly honoring Mr. Anglin for his service to Williamson County. If there's no objection, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read highlights of it. It's fairly lengthy because Dennis has had a very long and distinguished career, so I won't read all of it. But if I could, just a couple of the lines here. A resolution to recognize Dennis Anglin on the occasion of his retirement. Whereas it is appropriate that the members of this legislative body should honor those citizens who have performed with uncommon devotion and enthusiasm throughout their years of public service, and whereas Dennis Anglin is one such estimable person, and whereas after nearly 30 years of distinguished service as the Williamson County Assessor of Property, Mr. Anglin will be taking a much-deserved retirement, and whereas a native of Franklin, Dennis Anglin is a 1961 graduate of Franklin High School, and he attended Middle Tennessee State University for 2 years, and whereas he served with valor and distinction for 5 years as a member of the United States Air Force, and he is a veteran of the Vietnam War. And whereas, no stranger to awards and accolades, Mr. Anglin was named the 1979 Realtor Associate of the Year by the Williamson County Realtors Association, and he was named the 1991-92 Tennessee Assessor of the Year by the Tennessee County Officials Association. And whereas, Dennis Anglin is also a native, is also active and an active and devout member of the Berea Church of Christ. And whereas his many accomplishments aside, Mr. Anglin is deeply devoted to his family, and he always endeavors to remain true to family values of the highest order. And whereas Dennis Anglin exemplifies the spirit and allegiance to family and community that are characteristic of a true Tennessean, and whereas throughout his estimable career, Mr. Anglin has demonstrated the utmost professionalism, ability, and integrity, winning the unbridled respect and admiration of his colleagues and the good people of Williamson County. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 107th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, the Senate concurring, we extend to Dennis Anglin our heartfelt wishes for a happy and fulfilling retirement and every continued success in his future endeavors as we salute his exemplary tenure as Williamson County Assessor of Property. Signed, Speaker Beth Harwell, Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey, Governor Bill Haslam. Mr. Chairman, if I could, one more thing before I yield the lectern to Representatives Sargent and Cassida or Assessor Anglin. I'd like to point out Representative Sargent had this proclamation sponsored and passed. I carried it in the Senate, but apparently Mr. Sargent forgot to include a line for me and Representative Cassida's to sign. I'm sure that was an oversight on the part of Chairman Sargent. So, Dennis, if you prefer to not have Glenn and mine's signatures, you can keep this one. If not, we will get another one printed, if that's okay. So, Mr. Chairman, if I could yield to Chairman Sargent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Johnson, for recognizing that I forgot to put your signature on that. But we will take this one back, deframe it, add the appropriate lines, and when it was framed, I realized last week your name and Chairman Caster's name was not on it, but I will more than happy take this back, put the appropriate line, and we'll all sign it like we always do, and I apologize for that. Dennis, I think I may be able to find the money to reframe it, yes. Dennis, congratulations on your retirement.
As all of you know, I'm not much of a talker, but I do want to say a few things. First, I want to thank you guys. That was extremely nice of you, and I appreciate that. You know, I've got a lot to be thankful for. My family, of course, and they're not with me tonight. They will be with me Thursday at my reception. Robbie had to get our priorities straight tonight. Dancing with the Stars won over coming here. So that's where she's at. I want to thank my staff. Gosh, what a great staff I've had over the years. Those who have retired and gone on, and those that are still there. You know, you just can't do this work without good people. And we've certainly had that. I want to thank my fellow elected officials and all of their staff. We've worked well together over the years, and some of them have been here a while. I certainly want to thank this body. This body has always been there for the assessor's office. Occasionally you didn't give us what we wanted, but you were always there for us. I want to thank the department heads and all of their staff. My fellow assessors, who I've worked with for 30 years. My executive director, Will Denami, who's nice enough to be here tonight with me. Our county attorneys, I've never failed to call them. They get right back with you. They answer your questions, and we've always appreciated that. But my church family, most of all, I want to thank the citizens of Williamson County who have put their trust in me for all these years. I certainly want to thank them. And if I may, I would like to read something. The manager administers, the leader innovates. The manager maintains, the leader develops. The manager relies on systems, the leader relies on people. The manager counts on controls. The leaders count on trust. The manager does things right. The leader does the right thing. I hope and pray I'm leaving this job as a leader. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I noticed in those remarks, I don't see anything unusual about the state taking things back. I'm sure you all agree the same thing. They give it to us all the time and then take it back. So, Jack, we appreciate you doing that right here on the floor. And there was one whereas that they forgot to put in there. He's just a darn good person. And Dennis, you'll be missed. David, if you'll give us an update on the county, we'd appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, we'll go through the reports that we normally give you each month, and then we've got one or two extra items to look at. But the first thing is the budget report for the month of March. And as we didn't meet last month, I think I sent this out to most of you. Hopefully you've already had that, but we wanted to include it at your desk tonight. The April report was not ready as of today, and we hope to have that ready by the end of the week. But again, that gives us a 9-month snapshot, and everything appears to be in order. You can see the revenues are coming in well there, and we're well under expenditures, so that appears to be in order. We have 2 months of privilege tax, March and April. Both were good months. April was an outstanding month. If you look at the chart that we've been giving you, you'll see quite a spike up there for the month of April. There was one fairly large project, but we're happy for that, and we'll take it, even though it gives us a spike. But we hope that we will maintain the steady growth that we've had over the last 3 or 4 months. Then we have the report from the Cool Springs Marriott Conference Center. Another good month for them. We received a check for the month of March of $68,400. And the last item, Mr. Chairman, is a new regulation from the state of Tennessee. Anytime we sell bonds or refinance bonds, we have to file a report with the state. And now they are asking us not only to file that with them, but to present it to this body. It doesn't have to have a vote, but it is included in your packet. It's a report on debt obligation, and this report after tonight's meeting will be forwarded to the state of Tennessee for their files, and as we do all the time. So we just want to present that to you. We did report earlier to you about the saving. This is on the hospital bonds. We saved approximately $1.7 million over the life of those bonds. And in this report, you'll see the true interest cost of 1.8%. So we're happy to present that to you tonight, Mr. Chairman. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to address those.
Any questions for Mr. Coleman? I see none. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report. I'll entertain any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mayor Anderson? See none. Good. Oh, wait just a minute. Oh, we do have one. Commissioner Ryan?
Mayor, has there been, I know that your office is actually working with the hospital regarding the bond savings. Has there been any developments as far as any sharing of those funds between the two entities?
We sent over a letter requesting to be part of the agenda. That should be on this month, I would think. Hopefully we'll have something to report back next month.
Very good. Thank you.
Other questions? I see none. Next we have Dr. Mike Looney, Director of Schools.
Good evening. I'll keep my report very brief. You have a lot of work to do tonight. We're in the final few days of school being in operation. We're in the middle of end of course testing and final exam testing. Students dismiss on the 23rd of May, which is next week. Construction is proceeding very well at Hillsborough on the theater/auditorium. We have identified and are in the negotiation process of land acquisition targets in the northeastern section of the county and in the southern section of the county. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Danner?
We've
As we didn't meet last month, I feel like I need to bring this up this month. I have a question for you in regards to the World Class Fine Arts Program that
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
rolling out, and I saw that you hired your new art director.
Yes, we did.
Position that I did vote for once we found the funding. However, we all received a letter 2 months ago from the Christian parents of one of the high schools, and in regards to where you're taking the World Class Fine Arts Program, I need to know, and I think I'm asking on behalf of most of my constituents that call themselves Christians, what you are going to use, what you, the school board, and your new art director may use as a tool to measure morality, to measure what's appropriate and what's inappropriate when it comes to the fine arts program.
I'm not sure I'm in a position to answer that question. One man's morality is very different than another man's morality. I will say that obviously we are always wanting our staff members and students to display a decorum and mores that are consistent with the community. I do know that there were some questions that were raised as a result of a performance at one of our schools. It is my understanding that either all of or most of those concerns were alleviated by making some minor changes in the performance. Because those performances are copyrighted, we have significant restrictions about whether we can alter language or not. We have a process in place in Williamson County where individuals that have a complaint or a concern about a specific topic, such as a play or more recently than that, a book that we're reading, that a review committee will be convened and review the material to decide whether or not it's appropriate content for Williamson County schools.
I would actually take issue with your comment that that many of those things mentioned in that letter were not in the play. I did go see the play. I met with the principal, and I was told not to judge until I saw it. And my husband and I did go buy it and buy tickets and go see it. And I will say the talent was exemplary, but my heart broke for the content and the choice that was made to do that play. And so I would ask you a favor on behalf of those who would agree that that play, that your new art director consider not having that play resurface in this district.
Thank you for your input, Ms. Hanna. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnwell?
Looney, last week I sent you an email requesting some financial information. I'm just curious how that's coming along.
Mr. Barnwell, I don't remember getting an email from you last week. I got an email from you prior to the budget committee's work, but I don't recall receiving another email from you. If you sent one, I must have missed it.
Okay, I'll resend it to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Are there any other county offices that would like to report at this time? See none. Moving on to elections and appointments. The first we have is Equalization Board. It's 2-year terms expiring in May of 2014. The Brentwood representative, term expiring, Emil Mungen. The nomination, Emil Mungen. I'll accept a motion. Cook and Bain. All in favor of Emil Mungen signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Put one no. The Southwest section, Equalization Board, term expiring, James E. Allen. Nomination, James E. Allen. Commissioner Jones, the motion, Commissioner Little, the second. Any other nominations? See none. All in favor of Mr. Allen signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The Equalization Board, Northwest section, term expiring, Stan Tyson. Nomination, Stan Tyson. Commissioner Brockman, Commissioner Davis, the second. Any other nominations? I see none. All in favor of Stan Tyson signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? He's confirmed. The Southeast section, term expiring, Enos Wallace. Nomination, Enos Wallace. Commissioner Hayes, and Commissioner Wilson. Any other nominations? I see none. All in favor of Mr. Wallace signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The Franklin representative, Owen Reese, term expiring. Nomination, Owen Reese. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Langston, the second. Any other nominations? I see none. All in favor of Mr. Reese signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? He's confirmed. Next, Hospital Board of Trustees, 3-year terms expiring May of 2015. Districts 5 and 6, term expiring Kathy McGee. Nomination, Kathy McGee. Mr. Chalfant, Mr. Little, second. Any other nominations? See none. All in favor of Kathy McGee signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? At-large districts 1, 2, 3, and 4, term expiring Brown Daniel. Nomination, Brown Daniel. Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner Hancock, the second. Any other nominations? See none. All in favor of Brown Daniel signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Daniels confirmed. Districts 9 and 10, term expiring James Bo Butler. Nomination, James Bo Butler. Commissioner Brockman, Commissioner Chalfant, the second. Any other nominations?
This position.
I'll second it.
To Travis Hawkins. Yeah.
Work with me here.
That's
Yeah,
what I was asking. I have nothing against Mr. Butler for this position. However, based on the address on this form, Mr. Butler is no longer a voting resident of the 10th district. He's a voting resident of the 11th district, and as such, I don't believe he's qualified for this position. In the past, we've had 4 commissioners on the Hospital Board of Trustees, and currently we only have 3, and I think Travis would be a brilliant addition.
Getting it loaded, Commissioner Barnwell. Commissioner Brockman?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification for Bo Butler, because he had my support, and I just wanted to know what the policy was. Is this a hard and fast rule that since we've gone through the reapportionment, that's obviously why this has occurred?
Yeah. Mr. Mosley and I were talking about this. I know the hospital board has worked because we redistrict that, and I was under the opinion that it all falls under the district. They've reassigned some of those districts just because of what the county commission did redoing the district.
And so he would qualify under their policy?
I think so. Mr. Barnwell's raised the question, so I don't know.
Rules of the hospital. Mr. Hawkins is the only one on the ballot that does have that qualification.
Commissioner Hayes?
I was just wanting a
legal interpretation from Mr. Mosley.
The districts are created by the private act as to actually they're created by the Board of Trustees bylaws. They're not created by the private act where you have to be elected from a particular district. The board bylaws for Williamson Medical Center have created the pairing of the districts that they send over nominations for. So by legislative creation, there is no necessarily geographic limitation on the members, but they are created by their self-governing document, the board bylaws. As after the reapportionment that the county did, the board took that under consideration, and as Mr. Walton said, I believe, determined that he would be eligible for this based on his address and the shifted lines. But I don't have the map, and I don't know where this would fall on the map to verify that. I don't know that.
So what about the hospital districts? Would they not stay the same to 2014?
In general, once you reapportion, then the elections that come after that for any particular office would be at the next general. Your next general doesn't fall till 2014. So just as the school board that were elected this year fell into the new districts, so would the county or the hospital board districts to the degree they come up between now and then. 2014 is not the enactment date for the reapportionment. That's just the next general election applicable to county commissioners.
Bottom line, you're saying either of the gentlemen would be allowed to be a candidate.
I would have to take a look at whether or not he was outside the district. And if Mr. Butler were elected and we're not in the district, it would create a vacancy that would come back to this board. But my understanding, again, from the Board of Trustees when they put forth the nomination is that the individuals were and had physical addresses in the new districts. That's all I can speak to.
Commissioner Cook?
Oh, I was going to ask the same question that Commissioner.
Okay, follow up, Commissioner Barnwell.
Downtown Franklin area was moved into District 11. And Mr. Butler will be voting this year for school board member in District 11. So to me, he's not qualified to represent the people of the 9th and 10th districts, whereas Mr. Hawkins is.
All right, Commissioner Little?
I'd like to move to postpone this till we get the legal opinion on exactly where we stand with this second.
Commissioner Hayes is second. Any discussion on postponing this vote? Commissioner Bethard would. Oh, okay. Commissioner Ryan?
Same sentiments. I'm sure to me it's has nothing to do with qualifications. I'll be more than happy to support Mr. Butler with the 11th, but it was more concerned with the address. I like the motion.
I think we can do this with a voice vote. All in favor of postponing Districts 9 and 10 on the Hospital Board of Trustees till our June meeting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Hawkins abstains. All right, moving on. Property assessor, unexpired term expiring August 2012. Resigned, Dennis Anglin. Nomination, Brad Coleman.
Second.
Commissioner Barnwell, Commissioner Jones, the second. Any other nominations? I see you're here, none. All in favor of Brad Coleman, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Is Mr. Coleman here? You want to come up and say a couple words? Or more?
I'll say a few. 9 years ago, Dennis called me when I was working at Metro Davidson County for Joanne North in the assessor's office to offer me a position, and that has proved to be a very rewarding decision to say yes to that. To hear the kindness expressed towards Dennis is be an understatement to say I have some big shoes to fill. That said, I could think of no better mentor than Mr. Anglin over the past several years to prepare me for this role. I look forward to the opportunity to serve the entire county. I look forward to working with you guys and the rest of the citizens of Williamson County, hopefully for many years. 30 years seems like a long time from now, but we'll see. Hopefully that might be a possibility. I appreciate the trust of the commission, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Moving on to elections and appointments, disciplinary review board, 2-year terms expiring May 2014. Nominations: Monty Garnett. Entertain a motion. Proper motion and second. Langston, the second. Any other nominations? I see none. All in favor of Monty Garnett, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nomination, James Templeton. Entertain a motion. Mr. Wilson. Mr. Little, the second. Any other nominations? All in favor of James Templeton, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next nomination, Pete Flower. Commissioner Barnwell, Langston the second. Any other nominations? I see none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next nomination, Bob Soriano. Commissioner Cook and Commissioner Hayes. Any other nominations? All in favor of Mr. Soriano, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And next nomination, Steve Dunning. Entertain a motion. Commissioner Hayes, Commissioner Wilson, the second. Any other nominations? I see none. All in favor of Mr. Dunning, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That concludes all the nominations. Now we move on to consent agenda. Any items on the consent agenda anybody would like to move off? I see none. We'll take it as a whole. I'll entertain a motion. Second. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Cook, the second. Is that on the board? Consent agenda? Yeah. You ready to vote? All in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button.
Look at them go.
We did good. Now for the kicker. Anybody want to change their vote? Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
22 yes, 0 no.
Consent agenda passes.
You got a vote done.
One down.
22 yes and 2 absent. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, there we are.
Aaron, you ready?
He's getting there.
I didn't get used to seeing that.
I don't know.
We're on.
Hey, Bob, or did you need to speak, or you did?
No, that was from the.
Prior, okay, all right.
Yes, you can. It's the yellow abstain button. It also says cancel RTS.
Yeah. All right, moving on to zoning. Resolution 51220, resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to adopt the revised Williamson County zoning ordinance. This is a public hearing.
No, we're going to have a staff presentation
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. That's what this note meant. We're going to have a staff presentation first. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Walton. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mike Madison. I'm the Planning Director for the county, and we really appreciate the opportunity to address you all this evening regarding the proposed new zoning ordinance, which we think is a very important project for the future of the county. We've been working with a consulting firm, McBride, Dale, Clarion, on this project, and Greg Dale with that company and I are going to kind of tag team a PowerPoint presentation this evening. So Greg's going to start it, and then I'll finish things up. So with that, I'll introduce Greg Dale. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. As Mike said, what we'd like to do is to tag team a presentation. I'm going to start by providing a little bit of background on the update to the zoning ordinance, talk a little bit about what's in the proposed ordinance, and then turn it over to Mike. The image that you see on the screen is a summary of our work program. I'm not going to go through this in any great detail. I'd like to point out a couple of things that I'll come back to, one of which is you see the reference to modules 1, 2, and 3 on there. I'll explain a little bit more about what that means, but that's going to be the main way in which we'll be organizing the presentation this evening. The only other point I wanted to make with regard to the slide is we've tried to follow what we think is a very systematic process here, and I can walk you through individual steps if you'd like. But one of the things I'd like to point out is this has been a long process. It's taken a couple of years to unfold. And one of the reasons, frankly, why it's taken so long to unfold is what I would consider to be the extraordinary efforts that your planning staff has taken to get public input in this process, probably more so than in other zoning ordinance updates that we've been involved in around the country. There have been, and we can go into more detail, but there have been some 3 different rounds of public meetings, each of which was held in 3 different locations in the county. So there was a real effort here at various stages along the way to get out into the county. There was another county-wide public meeting, and I'm saying public meeting as opposed to public hearing. These are all things that occurred before the formal adoption process even began with Planning Commission. Public meeting that was held in the library, and in addition to, there were a whole series of, I think, what we were calling focus groups. That is, meetings that we held with individual groups that had common interests, whether they were environmental interest or economic interest or development interest and so forth. So that's one of the reasons why it's taken so long. We've had the opportunity to work with a group of people, essentially a team of people. You see the list in front of you. Commissioners Brockman and Hayes on the commission here were involved with the steering committee, which is a group that we met with many, many times throughout the process. The steering committee, probably more than anyone, was kind of the central, exactly what it sounds like, the steering process here. They were the one that really provided the key input on important issues, and there were many issues over the last couple of years that came up. We also obviously worked very closely with Joe Horn, Mike Madison, and Aaron Holmes with the staff, and Christy Ransom, the Planning Commission attorney, on this as well. So it's been a really good team. And in addition, the Planning Commission and the public and a variety of other people were involved in it. I think it's important to recognize that this process really started with your comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan was adopted in 2007. Unanimously endorsed by this group, and that really set the stage for this process. I think you all are aware of the relationship between a plan and zoning regulations. The way I've always described it to citizens is a plan is a statement of policy. It's the aspiration, whereas the zoning ordinance is a tool, one of the tools, but certainly a key tool to help implement that comprehensive plan, a legal tool. And that became a very important part of this. Couple of things that were in that comprehensive plan that helped guide this process you see listed here. So things like rural preservation. If you recall that comprehensive planning process, there was a tremendous amount of talk about rural preservation and the use of things like conservation subdivisions and some of the other things you see here. Natural and historic resource protection, improved quality of development outside of rural areas. And one of the points that I'd like to leave with you on this slide is this idea, again, that the comprehensive plan as a statement of policy or intent, and then the zoning ordinance as a tool to implement that. One of the key challenges here is, while a comprehensive plan is an aspiration, the zoning ordinance is the law, and that in that zoning ordinance is where the heavy lifting is done, where the hard work is done in terms of balancing interests. And much of this process over the last couple of years has been about balancing interests. And I think you're going to hear one of those issues tonight that you got a preview of in the public comment period. of an issue that still is going to require some additional attention at this level in terms of balancing some of those interests. In addition to implementing the comprehensive plan, there are a couple of other things that frankly are a little bit more business-like, but very important, and that is things like enhancing the user-friendliness and efficiency of the code, modernizing its provisions, coordinating other related regulations like the stormwater regulations, subdivision and wastewater regulations. These are all very important things because frankly, one of the things that I think is very important here is to recognize that simply making your zoning ordinance more user-friendly, simply making the process more user-friendly is a very important set of accomplishments with this update. So we're going to talk about what we're calling the modules of the code. Now, if you look at the zoning code draft that you have before you, you won't see anything called modules. But what we did was tried to break the code up into some kind of chewable pieces, some digestible pieces. And we want to present this in this way because what you see before you, if you think about a zoning ordinance and you try to break that up into its key components, you really have the three modules that you see here. And this is really kind of a helpful way to understand a zoning ordinance. One has to do with the administration and procedure, and that's very simply how decisions are made. I'll talk about that just in just a minute. The second piece is the zoning districts and use regulations themselves. You know, simply by talking about zones, we understand, I think, that we're talking about geographic zoning districts. So those districts are an important part of that. The zoning map, the proposed zoning map that you see on the board over there illustrates the proposed geographic pattern of those districts. And the third piece are the development standards, and those are things like parking and signage and landscaping requirements and buffering and those sorts of standards that go into this regardless of what district you're in. So those are the three kind of components of a code. What I'd like to talk about here very briefly is Module 1, which is administration and procedure. And I say very briefly because the best that we've heard throughout this process, I don't think there are any issues that we've heard in terms of public concerns about this. And that's probably not surprising because that really has to do with what I described as the process of how you make decisions. So there's some 23 articles in this zoning ordinance, and I think 11 of those relate to the decision-making process. Some of those are boilerplate, general provisions, administration, and so forth. But it really gets into the issue of with different kinds of decisions. And keep in mind there are things like zone changes, variances, special uses, site plan. Then you have the commission, the planning commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the staff, that there's this whole question of what decision goes to what body and so forth. And that's what this is all about. Frankly, the overarching theme here was to make this more efficient, more user-friendly, easier for people to navigate through the process. That was the overall kind of theme with this. There are a couple of things in particular that we can talk about, including things like transitional rules to make sure that we understand what happens with applications that are under review before the ordinance is adopted, that might get adopted while they're still in review. But most importantly, I think that what this section or these series of articles accomplish is to consolidate review procedures to make them more user-friendly and more efficient. It provides more specificity about things like applications. It streamlines procedures for things like site plan review. There are some specific things that we fine-tune, like extending the duration under which site plan approval is valid. Those are all kind of tune-up things. We can go into those in more detail. But frankly, I don't think there's anything earth-shattering in that first module. I think it's pretty straightforward, important and complicated, but pretty straightforward fine-tuning of the process. Mike is going to take it from here and walk you through modules 2 and 3.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Module 2 covers the zoning districts, the use regulations, and also includes a short chapter on nonconformities. When we created the zoning districts, we had a couple of, maybe three kind of overarching goals in mind. The first one was that we wanted to make sure that the new zoning districts conformed to the land use categories that were contained within the comprehensive plan. Secondly, to the extent we could in a zoning ordinance, we wanted to help implement some of the growth and development related policies that were articulated in the comp plan. And then thirdly, there was a goal that for the most part, not to make major changes or dramatic changes to allowable densities. And so in the vast majority of cases, the existing zoning districts simply translate to a corresponding new zoning district that's designed to kind of mirror the recommendations from the comprehensive plan and that are very similar to the existing zoning districts from a residential density standpoint. These next two slides, I won't spend a lot of time with them, but they simply show how the existing zoning districts, which are listed in the column on the left, will translate to the proposed new zoning districts, which are listed in the column to the right. Just a few additional points regarding the zoning districts. In order to help implement some of the policies of the comprehensive plan, there are new municipal growth area zoning districts that will be applied just to those areas that are within the urban growth boundaries of the various municipalities within the county. Also, we will eventually have customized village zoning districts for the 4 villages that the comprehensive plan establishes, those being College Grove, Leapers Fork, Grassland, and Triune. A lot of you know that we completed a special area plan for the College Grove village. That was adopted. We have since drafted a set of zoning district regulations specific to College Grove, working with the community on that. And that district is already incorporated into the ordinance that's before you this evening. We also completed a special area plan for the Leapers Fork village, and we're currently working with that community to develop those specific standards. And then upon the completion of the special area plans for Grassland and Triune, we'll develop specific zoning standards for those villages that will then get incorporated into the zoning ordinance following you all's approval. Also, I think it's important to note that after a great deal of discussion, the current lot width requirement of 200 feet for those lots that are 5 acres or greater in size have been carried forward in the proposed new ordinance. These next couple of slides, they simply kind of illustrate how we attempted to translate the recommendations from the comprehensive plan from a land use standpoint into the proposed zoning districts. And it's a little bit hard to see, but this is the map from the comprehensive plan. This is the proposed zoning districts map, and you can see a lot of similarities between those two. As Mr. Dale pointed out, we've got larger versions of the proposed zoning map with us tonight, as well as the smaller, more detailed parcel-specific zoning maps, which have been available for some time. Article 11 establishes the uses that are permitted in each zoning district, as well as the specific standards that would apply to individual uses. The list of permitted uses has been expanded and clarified, which we think will greatly help the user-friendliness of the zoning ordinance. Some conditional uses currently have been converted to either permitted uses or special uses, and there are individual sections that deal with principal uses, temporary uses, and accessory uses. Module 3 deals with development standards, and the articles that are contained within Module 3 really only apply to new development. They don't really apply to existing single-family dwellings, and they certainly don't apply to agricultural uses, which are exempt from the zoning ordinance. But this module contains articles that relate to such things as conservation subdivisions, natural resource protection, open space, landscaping, parking, those kinds of things. I want to touch on just some of the key points in Module 3. First, the natural resource protection standards, things that deal with stream protection and sinkholes and floodplains and so forth, are much more clearly expressed in the new ordinance, which we think will enhance the user-friendliness, but also we think will result in more certainty for developers and property owners in the development process. There are improved provisions that relate to the protection and maintenance of open space. The landscaping article contains specific provisions related to species diversity and native and drought-tolerant vegetation, which will not only have environmental benefits, but will make landscaping cheaper and easier to maintain. There are more detailed provisions regarding the applicability and formation of homeowners associations. Just a few more. One is that the new ordinance establishes both a minimum number of parking spaces and a maximum number of parking spaces for new development, which will result in less impervious surface and therefore less stormwater runoff. It's important to note, I think, that the existing allowance for up to 5 lots on a private access easement has been carried forward in the new ordinance, and the new ordinance contains updated provisions which will limit the amount of development that can occur on a parcel if the roadway infrastructure is not sufficient to support that development. That is, unless the developer funds and implements roadway improvements. Greg mentioned it during his remarks, but I wanted to further emphasize that public outreach was something that was very important to us and something that we placed a lot of emphasis on. When we completed the drafts of modules 1 and 2, we met with the Zoning Ordinance Update Steering Committee to get some final direction on the draft module. You may recall there was a joint meeting between the County Commission, Planning Commission, and Board of Zoning Appeals so that we could get some direction and feedback from elected and appointed officials. And then we held 4 community meetings, one at the library here in Franklin, and then scattered throughout the community at Page Middle School, at Grassland Middle School, and at the Burwood Community Center. Following those public meetings, we held 4 focus group meetings. These are smaller, more targeted groups, such as the development community, the Association of Realtors, and the agricultural community. And then after each of those public meetings and focus group meetings, we typed up every comment that we received and discussed those as a staff, and then discussed those with the steering committee. And then following that discussion, a number of changes were made to the proposed ordinance at that point. We didn't change everything that was requested, but we did take every comment very seriously, and many changes were made as a direct result of that public comment. I won't read this slide, but when we completed Module 3, we essentially repeated the same process from a public outreach standpoint. And then most recently, in January, we held another round of public meetings, this time focusing exclusively on the zoning districts and the zoning maps. That was part of our Module 1 and 2 material, but we felt it was appropriate to go back out to the community and have meetings designed for people to understand how the properties are currently zoned, how they're proposed to be zoned under the new ordinance, and the differences, if any, between the two. At this most recent round of meetings, a property owner expressed some concern about one of the provisions in the ordinance that would limit the size of individual buildings, individual commercial and industrial buildings within the proposed Hamlet district. That concern was discussed with the steering committee, and at that point the steering committee decided not to make a change to the ordinance. It was also discussed at the Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission determined also not to make a change to the ordinance, but also did suggest that that's something that could be revisited after the ordinance is adopted, if necessary. As Greg said, this is an issue that has remained an issue. I believe that some of you have heard recently from folks regarding this, and I provided you with some information recently. It was touched on at the citizens communication portion of the meeting, and I expect you'll hear more about it during the public hearing that we'll hold in a couple of minutes. In terms of the approval and adoptions process, the Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding the proposed zoning ordinance, and then at their April meeting, they voted to recommend approval of the proposed zoning ordinance and the official zoning map. Of course, this evening, you all will hold a public hearing regarding the proposal and then consider a resolution regarding the proposed zoning ordinance. I want to close by indicating that the zoning ordinance and the official zoning map are recommended to you all by the Zoning Ordinance Update Steering Committee, by the Planning Commission, and also by staff. And then I also want to mention that if you all do adopt the zoning ordinance this evening, we would recommend establishing an effective date of the ordinance of January 1 of 2013. And that would help the time period between adoption and the effective date, we think would help ensure that there's a smooth transition from the existing zoning ordinance. It would also give us an opportunity and give us time to develop checklists and other forms that would help with implementation and make the new ordinance more user-friendly. And then frankly, we also anticipate that during that time period, we would come back to you with a number of amendments to the ordinance. I think anytime communities adopt a new zoning ordinance, it's typically followed pretty shortly with a series of text amendments. And so as we continue to study issues and identify issues, we do anticipate coming to you between now and when the ordinance is adopted with a number of amendments and adjustments to the ordinance. So that concludes the presentation.
At this time, we'll open the floor to public hearing with Resolution 51220. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak is welcome to come up. We ask you to state your name, your address for the record. Also, we'd like, if you could, limit your comments to about 3 minutes. Appreciate it. So at this time, the public hearing's open. Anyone wishing to speak, come forward and be recognized.
Good evening. My name is David Taylor, and I own property at 6293 Meeks Road in Franklin. I'm here tonight to voice my opposition to the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance that would affect the Crossroad Center's property owner in Williamson County. My property is presently zoned Crossroad Centers, but under the proposed ordinance, it would change to either hamlet or village. The new zoning ordinance would be so restrictive that the property owners would not be able to effectively develop their property. Besides the changes to allowed uses, the main point of contention is that the maximum building size would be reduced from 29,000 square feet to 5,000. When I purchased my property, I did so with the intent of being able to develop it with the same use and standards that I was provided at the same time of the purchase. If the ordinance is adopted as is, I will surely suffer a financial loss of unrealized profits due to these restrictions. This is not acceptable to me as a Williamson County landowner or a property investor. I have thoroughly studied the proposed ordinance, and I'm very confused about the objectives of Williamson County when it comes to the Crossroad zoning districts. It is quite apparent to me that the allowed uses do not match with the performance standards. If you were to take all the allowed uses, roughly 50% of them would not be able to operate in a 5,000 square foot building. Why has the county reduced the maximum size to 5,000 square feet? When has 29,000 square feet ever been an issue in Williamson County previously? These are questions that myself and other landowners would like to know. Were these details inadvertently overlooked, or is the county intentionally trying to stop rural commercial development? I can understand the resistance to change the completed zoning ordinance at the 11th hour. I know that the county has worked long, and I'm sure it wants to complete the task at hand. Unfortunately, I do not believe that this is a legitimate reason to postpone addressing this issue. Although the zoning ordinance has been in the making for 3 years, not any of the other Crossroad property owners that I talked to were aware of these changes or were aware of the proposed changes, let alone that they were being adopted. I do not believe that the county has had proper input from CC landowners that these changes will affect. I would request that the county commission vote to table the new proposed ordinance and organize maybe a public meeting with other CC landowners where they could address our concerns. I feel that at least the county should be obligated to hear our voices and make us an integral part of the zoning process. And I know that it's been said that that there was meetings and the county was involved, and I attended some of those meetings, but at no point was I ever asked for my input, was I ever given an outline of what the differences were between the two. They showed me what the proposed was, but never what the existing was, so there was no way for me to get a grasp on actually what the changes were. I had to go myself, take a zoning ordinance book that I had, and go through all the details to try and find out what the difference were, and that's when I realized how many changes there was. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Anyone else?
My name is Jeannie Fulton. My husband and I have owned the 118 acres bordering State Road 840 West nearly 30 years as Crossroads Center. Physical address is 4446 Patesville Trinity Road. We're not in favor of the proposed zoning change from Crossroads Center to anything else that doesn't provide the same use and standards that CC presently offers landowners. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Mund. I live at 4411 Patesville Trinity Road, and even though I'm not in the CC area as it stands, there's one 5-acre farm dividing myself and our property from the CC area. But we purchased our property back in the 80s, and when we moved here in the 90s, about 20 years ago, I purchased more land only because then I knew that 840 was coming through and that there was going to be an outlet there. And so I was, as I'm sure any of you would assume, that the property values are going to go up. And by restricting the building size, it's not going to allow near the profitability, you might say, should we decide to sell that land. And we've heard nothing until about a week or so ago. So I hope that it's handled in the proper way, that we get to have some more input from more CC landowners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Robin Miller. My husband and I, Bo Miller, we live at 5470 Carters Creek Pike in the Burwood community. We drive by the Burwood Community Center on a daily basis, multiple times a day, and not once have we ever seen a sign announcing that there were any changes that were going to be talked about or discussed. Otherwise, we would have been there because we are within walking distance. We actually have a 1,000-foot marker in our yard to the new 840. Our property was bought in 2005, and so we, that land is property that we were not intending on being at for the rest of our lives. We were planning on using that as an investment property and eventually reselling that. So 1,000 feet from 840, our restrictions are greatly diminished by the proposed zoning. So we are very much in disagreement with those, and we're not asking for anything else to change. We're just asking that those rights that we currently have still be in effect. So please take that into consideration with your vote. Thank you.
I'm Clarence Johnson. I live at 8958 Horton Highway, College Grove, Tennessee. And I'm here to represent the Williamson County Association of Realtors and myself. And let me preface my remarks to let you know that I remain neutral on the CCC zoning where there's so much controversy tonight. But I do want to express my feelings about the balance of the ordinance. I think it's very good, and we're in support of the balance of the total ordinance other than what's been taking place with the CCC. We will remain neutral on that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eva Lamb. I live at 5031 Murfreesboro Road, right in Triune. Trust me, it's not a village. It's you wouldn't walk on 96. You wouldn't. I am so concerned about what kind of restrictions you're putting about commercial coming in there, because are we just going to get, with 5,000 square feet or even 10,000 square feet, a bunch of convenience stores? Are we going to get a bunch of McDonald's? I mean, what are we really getting? And I never got a notice. I live right there at the corner, never knew these meetings were happening. And so I would really like for Mr. Taylor's requests be taken seriously. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Roy Fox, 5791 Bending Chestnut Road. I've been to a lot of these meetings that we had. I got to attend quite a few of them. I got to make some comments, and there's a few things that I missed that I think we really, I overlooked them, and I'm sure there's some other people, and they brought them up tonight. The CC designation really should be carried forward into the new hamlet zoning, and we should retain the same rights as landowners as we do now. You're almost like rezoning this property, and it should have been a sign put on every little spot out through there if we're going to change the zoning of that property. I know that there's been a lot of notifications and some mailings and things like that. In today's time, it's just awfully hard to cut through all the clatter to get to people that really are going to be affected by the laws and the regulations that we pass. I think we need to keep the CC designation, or keep the rules the same, and then as we go forward in this law, then we can make changes as the landowners and the people around there would like. It's hard to, when you start changing the law and changing horses in the middle of the stream and changing too much at one time, you miss a lot. Another thing I'd like to point out, I don't think there's the same amount of crossroads, community crossroad designation as there's going to be villages or hamlets. I think there's going to be, I know perhaps one at near Greens Chapel that's already a community crossroads designation is not listed on the new map. I don't know if it's going to be on there or not. And also there's 840, I guess you'd call it a crossroad too, where it's crossing at several places. That maybe there's those should be designated community crossroads also until we change some things. So these are some later things that have come to my attention, and I wanted to bring them to your attention, that we haven't gotten enough attention to consider them. And so maybe we need a month or so to look at them a little more and maybe examine it a little further. Thank you very much for y'all's time and attention. We appreciate y'all giving us a chance to say something.
Anyone else?
My name is Daniel Wild. I live at 421 Barnes Drive in Lebanon, Tennessee. My sister and I own the property at 1276 Lewisburg Pike, which is adjacent to Mr. Lloyd's property. In fact, my father sold that property to Mr. Lloyd several years ago. I would like to say that while I don't stand to be affected as much because I will be legal non-conforming, if someone, it does lessen the chances with Berry Farms coming in down the street of someone coming in and buying my property and doing something else with it. But it really affects Mr. Lloyd and also the Henpeck Market down another way, down the next neighbor. People that have purchased their property as an investment, thinking that it's going to be one thing, and then waking up one morning and find out it's something totally different. They probably wouldn't have paid as much as they did for that property to begin with. I will say, as far as the notices, I don't live in the area, so I would have had no idea that this was happening. None at all. There was no notification, and I could have stood to lose a significant amount of money if my property wasn't already developed. So I appreciate your consideration.
Howdy, my name's Greg Langeliers. I live at 915 Battlefield Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. I understand the whole scale issue and, of course, appreciate all the work that everybody on the Planning Commission did as it relates to going through this process. I know it was very difficult. One of the things that I just wanted to point out is one of the things that damages scale more than anything else in the county, I think if you drive around and look at it, are going to be the schools, because they're huge. And to plop a big school in the middle of a small community like this will damage scale more than almost anything else. And schools and churches are, and I support both of those things, don't get me wrong, but both of those are kind of exempted from the scale issue. So the things like 840 and humongous churches and schools will do way more to damage the scale than will, I think, a building of 10,000 square feet. And so I think it makes sense to look at this a little more, try to figure out, get a view and a picture, because that's what I'm having trouble with. The vision of the hamlet. What is it going to look like? How's it supposed to look? There's some people that in Bethesda own almost 200 acres of CC property, and I don't know how, I just don't know, I can't picture. I think it's possible, I think with some more work, unfortunately, that these communities can kind of be planned very similarly to how I think the staff is looking at College Grove and Leapers Fork and some of these others. And I think it's important, and I just argue that it would to, err on the side of property rights as we go forward, and then if we need to change these, let's change them as we move along. I think the staff has always been willing to do that, and that's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else?
My name is Derek McCollum. I live at 6876 Bethesda Arno Road. The farm that Mr. Greg was talking about is our family farm. It's almost 180 acres. The entire farm is taken up in the hamlet now. This farm has been in the family since 1942, when Mr. Taylor bought it when he came back from whichever war that was. But to come in here now, property values have plummeted so much since 2008. To lose more with the thought that this might lose 50% more is just unthinkable. And the way things are today, to put this on the landowners at this time is just unreal as people are struggling today. I would vote that if we can table this, it would be and have some more discussion on it. It would sure help a lot of attitudes. And this farm is 4 miles off of 840. We're not right at one of the intersections. We're off in the country. It's not like this place is going to be developed tomorrow. It's just I can't understand why this. I'm not trying to single up this part out, but it's 4 miles off of the nearest intersection from 840, 65, or whatever. And to single this one out, I don't know why it's a blanket change. So I would like to table it and have some more discussion.
Anyone else?
My name is Charles Moore. My wife and I live in Brentwood, but we have purchased a property here on Carter Creek Pike about 13 years ago, and we had wanted to build our home there on that property where 840 came through and divided our property really into 3 different portions or parcels. And, you know, state route or interstate really going through a property, we wound up not able or really conducive. What property we had is no longer conducive to build along the 840 close to it because noise, trucks, fumes, danger. So really it has reduced the property considerably. And then on our property, 2 what you call ramps were constructed on Carter Creek Pike. And it is the only ramp between Highway 31 in Thompson Station to Pinewood Road, the only one. That's about 15 miles. A lot of traffic will be generated on Carter Creek Pike, but also will be on 840, the new 840. And we appreciate very much whatever the community, the state, and what have you have done. But really, as a result of the ramp, our property, which is zoned cross roads, if the new regulation or zoning goes into effect of 5,000 square feet, we will not be able to do very much with it because we can no longer really sell it for residential. Nobody wants to live on a ramp, you know, or within 1,000 feet of it. And now we won't be able to sell it either as commercial, which we have had it zoned commercial for all the 13 years and prior to those 13 years. So we kindly, my wife and I kindly ask tonight if we can just maintain the 29,000, because that community, Burwood, needs services, a hospital, school. Anything we build is going to be larger than 5,000, and we have about 20,000 designated as commercial CC. So we had already borne the damage from 840 being dividing our property and what have you, and now if we do this, you know, it's too much really of a loss. And I do thank you very much for your listening, and I appreciate any consideration you could give us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anyone else? Last call. We'll close the public hearing. Moving on, Resolution 51220, resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to adopt the revised Williamson County zoning ordinance. Commissioner Brockman, Hayes, and Walton. Proper motion. Commissioner Hayes, the second. You want to explain this, Commissioner Brockman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the staff and the entire community for coming out and giving us input. It was, in my opinion, done in a way, in a manner that the community could respond And what you're seeing tonight in the comments are the one particular segment of the entire zoning regs that were really based on a foundation of the comprehensive plan. Okay. So Commissioner Hayes and I served on the steering committee for the comp plan, as well as the new zoning ordinance and all the regulations that you're seeing here. And really, I want people to really understand that we really were responding in all of this to the public in terms of what they wanted. You know, it's something that I may entertain a suggestion that we look at this particular issue of the community crossroads in terms of transitioning to hamlets, and let the staff weigh in and begin to see if that's something that we need to do more work on. But as far as adopting the plan, I really hope that we will do that tonight. It deserves our support. It reflects the community standard. I mean, we wouldn't be who we are in Williamson County if we hadn't forged zoning regulations in 1988. And I just thank the people like John Lackey, who've been around for so long, who did that. It's given us the quality of life that we all really, you know, brag about, because it is such a special place. And it didn't just happen. It happened because people cared about the quality of the life here and the building standards, the land conservation. It's just, it's very unique that we were able to do that, but we needed to do an update, and I think it's been done thoughtfully. Perhaps it's not perfect, and all I would say is that I would really hope you do not wait on the plan as a whole, that we vote on it tonight with a resounding yes, with the statement that we will do more work on the crossroads communities that are transitioning to hamlet in terms of that building envelope. It seems to me tonight we've heard some thoughtful comments, and perhaps that does deserve that particular reevaluation, let's say. But as far as adopting it, I really hope you will support it.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockman. Commissioner Hayes?
In the study, we had so many things that we were looking for and looking at. Preservation, property rights. We were very interested in agriculture and the agribusiness and tourism and agritourism. And with that, we heard different groups. We had focus groups. We had a focus group just made up of agricultural people who we listened to. They wanted a 200-foot road frontage to remain. We listened. They wanted to be able to grow crops and have a little stand out front to sell their crops. We listened to them. There were many, many things that we did listen to. There were some things that were mentioned at various meetings, and so many of you probably were at the meetings. I think I may have missed one of the meetings, and we heard so many different things. But I'm going to have to say that in no meeting that I attended was anyone cut off before they were allowed to speak. We had a chance for interaction, we had a chance for talking, and then there was literature there for you to make your comments. So I would say that people who did attend the meetings did have a chance to speak. I also know that when we did approve the 1988 zoning, within the first 18 months, we checked and we had over 100 tweakings and corrections. I don't think this will be any different. I think we've checked hard, we've tried to work with everybody, and we've made some real good inroads. I've had some calls who were very much for the hamlets, and they've said, we don't want a box store out by me, I don't want a big oil station, but everybody has the right for what they do want. I just want to show you the size of this booklet that had to be put together. There's a lot of work here. we've spent hours and really, really, truly years. So we haven't done it lightly, and we haven't done it without caring, because we do care for this community. So I want to expand with you, Mr. Chairman, if you would, and let us go forth. We don't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater. 95% of this is great. We heard some errors tonight, and every one of them, or concerns, not particular errors, they'll be determined, but we heard concerns, and every one of them had to do with community crossroads, without exception. Every one of them related some way, even Mr. Lloyd's problem, although his is in the urban growth boundary, which we said because the Franklin would eventually probably annex that we didn't need to do much there, but perhaps we were incorrect there. I would like to propose, and with the amendment, emphasizing what Commissioner Brockman said, I'd like to propose that we go ahead and prove this today with an amendment that I will stipulate that we will take a look again, that we'll pull out the community crossroads, which would involve the villages and the hamlets. We will take a look at those again, and then we will go forth. Another thing I must say too, for those of you who are near 840 interchanges, there will be individual studies done at every 840 interchange. We've already done the one at Triune. We've already done the one at Arno and Paytonsville Road. We have not done, at Arno Road. We have not done the one at Paytonsville or the Burwood exit. That would not normally expand some commercial uses, because that has to do with 840 interchanges. So those of you near that would be something that you would have had no way of knowing, but that is going on. But I offer my amendment that we approve it as is, except for the Community Crossroads District, and we take another look at that.
Motion, second. Commissioner Little. Any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Danner?
I appreciate Judy's offer. I was going to actually make a motion to defer, because I think what we see is that, like we made changes and we listened to the people on the easement, and then we adjusted the plan to be able to suit those folks. I think there's still room here to do that for these folks, and I like the idea of an amendment, your amendment, but I don't understand the intent or the wording. I don't know what you mean by the amendment to take another look. To me, it feels like when we adopt this, that it will be baked, and I wasn't here in 1988, the last time we did this, and so I feel like, and on behalf of the landowners that are here, that we not vote and adopt this right now with the hopes of taking another look. We don't know what that legally means to these people and to their property values and to their property rights. I feel like that once we adopt this, because there's just too much ambiguity in what it means to take another look, that I feel like we should defer it for a month or two until these folks can meet separately and independently with the Planning Commission and maybe work out an amendment that's worded more definitively, like grandfathering the current rules, or making Crossroads go straight to village and skip the hamlet designation. I think that the wording needs to be more legally defined to be able to appease this glitch. I don't think waiting another month or two would be worth getting it right, so that we could all approve it. I could not vote for this the way it's worded. We'll take another look.
Well, yeah, Commissioner Hayes.
Everything except the Community Crossroads area. I don't see any need to defer what is right. We heard nothing about anything else. We heard the approval of the 200 feet. We heard the approval of the other things. We have work to do on the Community Crossroads. We have work to do for that area, but I think to hold up and not approve what has been already accepted would be no need. It would be throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
If I may, I'd like to call on Attorney for the Planning Department, Christy Ransom. Can you elaborate on the motion that's on the floor?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I kind of flagged the chairman down because I want to make you all aware of some interesting procedural aspects of a zoning ordinance amendment. It's very different than if you're just amending a regular resolution, whether this is an ordinance as a whole or as an amendment. Before the commission can consider a zoning ordinance, it has to be reviewed and considered by the Planning Commission. And you have to advertise your public hearing 30 days out. So if you're amending this document, you're amending it to something that the Planning Commission has not considered. And so if an amendment is approved, once you're finished with your amendments, I'm going to halt any vote on the document as a whole until it goes back to the Planning Commission for another consideration and public hearing at their level, and then we would have to advertise it and bring it back here, which means the earliest you could see it again is July. And then as far as the specific amendment, the only question I would have is there's a difficulty, Commissioner Hayes, and I appreciate what you're saying. There's a difficulty in adopting a document with zoning districts while retaining an older zoning district. They won't mesh, and so there could be some more discussion about that, and probably get some opinion from the planning director and Greg Dale. But I just want to advise you of the procedural aspect of this. That July is the soonest you could see it, if you choose to amend it or defer it or whatever, in order for us to re-advertise and bring back something that the Planning Commission has considered. So that's something to keep in mind, and I have lots more information answering questions that I can.
Okay, don't go away. Commissioner Beathard? Oh, okay. Commissioner Ryan?
Well, I suppose I needed a little, with Christie up there, in terms of clarification on Commissioner Hayes's proposal to essentially exempt CC. If we were to exempt that, under which rules would that area then fall under? Would it be under the existing rules? And I understand what you're mentioning is if we do amend this, we're looking at July. While I certainly don't want to delay the process, anytime you're talking about property rights, in my mind, you know, it warrants pumping the brakes a little bit. And so I just want to make sure that I understand Commissioner Hayes's proposal or amendment, that if that area is to be exempted from this, under what rules would that area be subjected to?
Yes.
That was my concern, Commissioner Ryan. Like I said, I understand where Commissioner Hayes is coming from, but as far as the regulatory aspect, we would essentially have two different zoning ordinances in effect, and that's not really sure how that would work, because now we have a delayed effective date, so the current zoning ordinance is going to be in effect until this new ordinance is effective. So if you all approve it, right now, the recommended effective date is January 1. So it could be that those issues are ironed out. But as far as the amendment retaining previous zoning for districts that's no longer recognized in the new document, I'm frankly not real sure how we would put those two together.
Yeah, you didn't make that. So okay. Okay.
Or, and to Commissioner Danner, she was on the board first. If
Okay.
she'd like to defer this, I'd second that.
All right, well, and Commissioner Beathard was the second? Yeah, okay. All right, so that gives us two. Did anyone want to speak to the motion to defer?
If I may.
Time out, let me clear everybody. If you'll hold on just a second. I'm taking you all out. Okay.
Well, wait a minute, what are the numbers good?
Don't worry
Okay.
about what she's doing. Look over here. She's entering the agenda, so we need to look at
Commissioner Ford. Commissioner Ford,
I got picked
on
up.
the motion to defer.
Yeah. Christie, thank you for your work on this. If I understand procedurally, if we
Pull your mic
at this
down,
choice,
Jeff.
excuse,
Pull your- Commissioner Brockman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because of the legality of an amendment at this juncture, I cannot support a deferral. I really believe it's important that we have the document that has been vetted to so many levels that it deserves our support tonight to adopt. That does not mean that we can't look at the transition from the standards from the community crossroads to the hamlets, which we will keep, but we will look at that particular standard based on the comments tonight. But we need to adopt this tonight, and I would really encourage you to do this. I don't think it will do anything to give this longer period. We can address those concerns, but we need to adopt the zoning ordinance.
Commissioner Davis?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Brockman. We spent years on this, a lot of money and a lot of staff time to get where we are tonight. This document will never be perfect. If we change it, someone else will disagree with it. There's plenty of opportunity to amend it down the road, just like the past comprehensive plan was amended many times. So I propose that we follow through and vote on it tonight.
Commissioner Hayes?
Wasn't legal, but it was a good try. But I would have assumed that it would have stayed a CC had it not been, could it have not gone to the new. I concur that we need to pass the resolution as we have it now, but I also concur that we will do further work and that the plan would not take place, would not go into action till January 1 of next year. And as I mentioned to the gentleman who had talked about his area, that he could go ahead and anyone could go ahead and get their proposal in now under the old regulations, and that person was not sure what he wanted to build. I think it's somewhat limited by his slopes and forest and other things, but I am of the opinion that we need to go ahead and pass this, and I concur that we certainly will work hard and we will make sure that these changes are looked at and that we do come back to you with some tweaking prior to January 1.
Commissioner Danner on the motion to defer.
Speak to that since I didn't really get to define why I was doing that. I just want to put out there, I appreciate so much the work that has been put into it, and I've never seen a government department try so hard to please the people of the plan. However, I just want to make it public knowledge that I did ask Mr. Madison how many people he had on record that had attended the public meetings, and we had a number. He said not everyone signed in, 314 people. My understanding there's 80,000 property owners in the county. It's less than 0.04% that actually attended. I attended two. I wasn't here on the commission when you were doing Module 1, but I attended Module 2 and Module 3, and out of those 314, I don't know how many were elected officials, how many were on the Planning Commission. The two meetings I attended, when you subtract those people out, I don't think there were more than a dozen or two people, maybe 2 dozen landowners at those meetings. So I feel like the system to get the public notice out is broken. We're obviously not very effective. I know we try and we say we made this huge effort, but I don't know what we do if we place an ad in the Tennessean or if we in the newspaper. Whatever we're doing, it's not working. I know that Mr. Taylor, at his own expense, mailed letters to the landowners, and it's the first time that these crossroads people even knew this was happening. I think he spent $400. I wish the county, actually I think the county owes you that $400. I think we should have done a better job at notifying people of what was about to happen to their land use, to their property rights. So while I know there was an effort made, I do think that we should defer this for 1 month so that the Planning Commission, or if we can't meet till December, till July, then 2 months, but to take into consideration we've got a problem. Yes, 98% of it is right. That's why we should take the time to fix the last 2%. Let's get it to a place where 24 of us can vote unanimously on this future plan for the county. So I ask for your support for the deferral.
Commissioner Little. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I asked you a while ago and you didn't
Well,
want to speak.
I
You
can't
wanna speak
figure
to
out
the
when I'm
deferral?
supposed to hit the button and when I'm not, I guess.
All
But
right, wait just a minute. Go.
If I may, I just want to echo Commissioner Danner's sentiments here. I think that we're all, it sounds to me, of like mind, that we want the community, Crossroads community, to have a chance to revet this and plead their case. What seems to be at play here is whether or not we vote on this matter tonight and then give them that opportunity at a later date, or go ahead and defer it legally to give them that opportunity. I think there are a lot of property owners here tonight that will sigh relief if we give them the opportunity without voting on it tonight to plead their case, especially since it seems that there were some, and I know that some of the property owners like Mr. Lloyd live in Nashville and elsewhere, who were unaware of these proceedings. And sometimes it takes an impetus like this, where it's actually coming to vote before people become aware of a situation. I feel strongly that if this is not going to be put into effect until January 1st, we certainly have a month or two to allow these property owners to be heard one more time.
Commissioner Little?
As to what the difference would make between approving this and making changes and doing the deferral for 2 months, what this does to their process with the transition and how it's going to affect everything as a whole. What's the difference between us approving it and amending it or deferring it?
Mr. Madison, you want to address that?
Yes, sir, I'll attempt to address that. I think either way, either action will result in us working with the community to revisit the issue of the Crossroads Center transition to the county commission. If that's your wishes, it sounds like it certainly is. We'll be happy to do that. If you were to adopt it this evening, we would recommend that it not be effective until January 1. And under that scenario, we would simply go back and work with the community and the planning commission and steering committee to bring back a recommendation and some options regarding how to deal with that issue. So that period of January 1 would be used to prepare that amendment to the ordinance, as well as other amendments that we're currently working on and considering. The other scenario would result in adoption of it at the earliest, September. So it could be pushed out further than that, which would also result in the delay. Effective date would be the same amount of time to prepare for using the new ordinance and give the citizens an opportunity to
Question. So if we vote to defer tonight for this issue to be looked at, that will affect your effective date of being able to go on January 2013?
Well, it could affect our recommendation in terms of depending on when it gets back to the board for the vote. And the reason is that we do feel like we need 6-7 months in order to work on the checklists and kind of get ready internally as a staff, and also make sure that the development community and the citizens have that transition period to kind of ease into using the new ordinance.
Property owners that are here have legitimate concerns, but I want you to understand that during the public hearing process and all the meeting process, other property owners were in support of the scale of the hamlets as they've been sketched out. So they're not here tonight, but I just want you to know there are those property owners who have property rights who are concerned about the scale of the development in these hamlet areas. So it's not just, so to say to throw it out for deferral, then those individuals have to come back into the system as well. So it's this other way of approving it and then letting the staff work on this particular issue, I just think is a much more defined, logical way so we can implement it January 1.
Appreciate here is the non-resident property owners just says, for whatever reason. Two questions. Is there anything magic about January 1st, or is that just a date? If we do it today, then 6 or 7 months, January 1st, like a good, logical start of the new year.
Well, yes, sir, the January 1st was
through this, we figure it, adopt something in July. Then I fully support. And I think we all also have heard the responses from the CC tonight. So if we adopt really an impact.
Okay, yeah. There are a number of property owners who are anticipating the new regulations and feel like the new regulations will benefit them in terms of their plans for development. And I do believe that there are property owners that want the new ordinance to be in place as soon as possible so they can go forward with their plans.
Sure, that makes sense. The concern that you've heard tonight, is that something that was heard, brought through? Is the proposed compromise from property owners, and if it's not considered a compromise, Mike doesn't like me. There's a lot of things I could say right now, but I'm not going to say any of them. So, Mike, is this considered a compromise proposal? And if so, would you address that? If not, can you explain to us the rationale of not accepting the proposal and of down zoning these properties?
This concern that was expressed to us at one of the body.
Can you explain to us a little bit of the rationale that they used to make that decision?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When in deferring the entire zoning ordinance is what we're going to be talking about, the biggest complaint in almost the phone calls I've got concerned Hamlet's Country Crossroads. And based on that, if we defer the entire plan, does it open up the entire plan for revision while this plan is open? I believe it does. But our only concern is the Country Crossroads Hamlet right now, and that's the people we heard from. So I think it wouldn't be, I'm in favor of having a discussion again with those people that spoke tonight, and I'm sure there's other people out there also that will jump on board. But to defer the entire plan to study one part of it, I think we don't really want to go there because we want to focus on the country crossroads and hamlets, which definitely needs to be examined. And that was my only concern about deferring the entire plan tonight to a later date. Thank you.
Yes, I didn't know exactly what to talk about and when, whether it's on deferral or whether it's on the actual process itself. It is very confusing. I understand why everyone is confused, because this is a process that took 3 years. Basically, Mike said 2 years. But it has been very confusing for the average person to understand. It's hard for us as county commissioners, those of you that worked on the committees, those that we have our consultants, we have our departments. There's a lot of people, but it's hard to understand. And Commissioner Hayes said, this is a big book, you all. This is a very big book. There are countless hours that have been spent on this. And I fortunately, I think, have been to every meeting that was in the Page area. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know whether a deferral is right. Christy, you know, the legal, maybe I could have you come back. On this, I'm still confused on if you defer and if you, and we obviously wrote out the amendment part of it. But the people that I spoke with or and talked with are a lot of them families that have been there. I grew up here. These are people that want to keep their farms, that want to keep their processes, and they are afraid they're going to lose that character. They're going to lose the things. They don't understand. And I know we did the public meetings, countless hours, and I don't want to completely knock this out. I mean, I know what it's gone through. It's only the country crossroads. Can you explain legally maybe a little bit better? And I don't know what the answer is for the country crossroads.
With that January 1 effective date. Oh, I got louder. There wouldn't be other cleanup amendments Mike mentioned we are already aware of that we're working on. Does that answer your question?
Able to listen to those that are concerned with questions. So I think what you just said was that if we passed this and then in July, which would be the 2 month, is that correct? Then you could address and have time, hopefully, to address these with with those that have those concerns. Crossroads that where the problem is.
To withdraw the deferral, if I understand Christie correctly, is if we approve the plan with clear directions tonight for an amendment for the community crossroads area, we can have that by July. Am I understanding you correctly?
Assuming we can get together and get it drafted, the timeline as far as the public hearing notices, there would be time. There would be time to put amendment drafted if the document is approved this evening without amendment, because it's when you make amendment that the process halts and has to go back, because the Planning Commission has to consider something in the nature of a zoning ordinance or a zoning ordinance amendment before you can vote on it. Okay, so if you amend this document at all, you will send it back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration. If you adopt it as presented this evening, because we've met the notice requirements, you could come back and amend it as long as we follow the proper procedures. So what I'm telling you is, as far as the public hearing notice requirements, we would have time to prepare an amendment, have it reviewed by the Planning Commission, advertise the public hearing, and get it back to you by July for your July meeting, where you would have to conduct a public hearing just like this before you approve it.
Yes button. Opposed, your no button. And don't forget to confirm on the deferral.
Motion to defer.
Did I vote?
No, well, it's not working.
All right, okay.
Hit confirm, Cheryl. Hit confirm.
Press your vote again and then hit confirm.
Commissioner Hayes. Confirm your vote, Commissioner Hayes. Vote and then confirm.
Bert, you need to vote and then confirm.
Don't confirm, vote yes, no, abstain, and then confirm.
Anybody wishing to change their vote? I hate to throw that out there, but record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
Yes, 15 no.
So we're back to the main resolution, 51220, I'm sorry. Any discussion on the resolution as presented? Commissioner Hayes?
Yes, I would say that let's vote to approve this, and immediately, if you will allow me to speak, I'd like to give a directive for a draft for amendment to come to us next month, the next meeting period, for the looking of the community crossroads.
Commissioner Ford, if you'll use Commissioner.
Legal staff, do we have the ability to my mic not working? Do we have any ability to direct action of the Planning Commission, or can we just make it known that that's our wish?
you can ask for anything you want to ask for. You cannot tell the Planning Commission what they have to adopt at that point or to recommend back to you. As I understand Commissioner Hayes's recommendation, though, it is for preparation of an amendment which would then be considered by the Planning Commission and this body. I don't think it's an outcome of what the amendment would be as much as it was a direction for drafting of an amendment for consideration.
I understand that we can't tell them what to recommend. It's absolutely in their purview. But do we have the ability, are they then required to, or can they ignore that directive? I mean, we can request and ask them to bring that to us, and then they're an independent body that's completely independent, and they can say, we've considered this you know, to the end of time already, and we don't think we need to consider it again. Is really my question.
Yeah, that might be more appropriately answered by Christie.
Planning staff people talking to me about the process.
Jeff, would you restate?
Sure, Christie, if we do what Commissioner Hayes is asking and say, we would like an amendment to come to us, does that really carry any more weight than just a request by us? Is that something that is then obligating the Planning Commission and staff to prepare that?
A zoning ordinance amendment can be proposed by any of you. You can ask planning staff to prepare it. The Planning Commission's role is to either recommend it, not recommend it, or suggest changes. The key point is that they see it first. If they don't recommend the amendment, then you all have to approve it by a majority of the whole, and not a simple majority. That's the only distinction. What I will tell you is, some of the planning staff and the planning commission chair is concerned that if they rush this to get it to July, they won't be able to spend as much time with the community as they would like. So I'm telling you, as a practical matter, advertising, we can get it back in July. But I want to caution, if you want us to rush it back in July, if you want us to do it right, we want to be able to have time to spend with these folks. So maybe your September meeting. So I just want to make that clear. I don't want to promise something that can't be delivered and anyone claim what you said. So that's, I want to make sure everybody understands that. If you want us to do this, we want to spend the time that's necessary to draft it right and bring it back. But did that answer your question?
Commissioner Langston?
I'm the first victim of the new machine. I voted wrong in a way I did not want to, but that's my error. I wanted to vote no, and I voted yes. That's my fault. But I do want to make a comment in regard to what Ms. Yearwood said. I think we do not need to put the Planning Commission under the gun as to when this is done, because I think it's taken a long, long time to get it done, and I think it will be done before January 1st or whatever it is done. But I would support the this zoning ordinance, and I just wanted to make the comment that I didn't vote the way I wanted to vote. Thank you.
Commissioner Little?
Yes, I wanted to reiterate what the attorney was saying, that we don't need to rush the Planning Commission, but this body has the final say as to what the zoning laws are, not the Planning Commission. They make the recommendations, but we pass the laws. So if we amend it in December meeting to the community crossroads, then we can do that, and it'll go into effect January 1, because we have that authority. At this time, I'd like to ask for Mr. Horn has a few things he'd like to say.
We've had a lot of questions tonight, by the way. Good evening. I've so far stayed out of this. We've had a lot of questions tonight about what, the Planning Commission would do. With the idea that when our bosses, all 24 of you guys and Anderson, ask for something, we'll go back and work on it as diligently as we can. To the other extent, I think Christie's statement that September is probably the best way to get this done, I agree with. What I would say, though, statement that was attributed Duke Ellington many years ago, and his statement was he didn't need more time, he needed a deadline. And that's a good deadline to work out these issues, I think, and I think that can be done. I'm hopeful it can be done to the satisfaction of all.
Commissioner Hayes?
Just wanted to say that I was not trying to give them a deadline other than just a time to give plenty of time to get with our residents who are concerned, and I do want their input to continue. And just so it's ready for completion by January 1, I think we've got enough time to work on it and hear from everybody and do it right.
Commissioner Chalifant?
Call the question.
Commissioner Baines, the second. Question's been called. All in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Question's been called. Are you ready to vote, Linda? We're voting on Resolution 51220 as presented. If you're in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anybody wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 1 no.
Resolution passes. Let's take about a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
and the
what you're thinking.
podium on. Can I say something? Oh, they're not in here. I do want. I understand. I'm doing the best I can.
All right, moving along. Resolution, no, let's see, wait a minute. Where are we?
We're on number 1.
You're moving 10. Yeah, we're moving 10.
Oh, yeah, you're going to move 10 up.
Great.
We're going to take 5, 12, 10 out of other.
Other.
Did you already move it?
All right, now we're, Resolution 51210. Resolution to increase funding to the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau from current 17% of annual calendar year lodging tax collections to 21% of 2011 calendar year lodging tax collections for fiscal year 2012-2013, and 25% of 2012 calendar year lodging tax collections for fiscal year 2013-2014 in future years, recognizing this funding as a designated portion of visitor-paid lodging tax reinvested in tourism, marketing, and promotion through the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Smith,
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Hayes, the second. Committee vote, Tax Study Committee. All right, Budget Committee. Explanation, Commissioner Smith.
The purpose of this resolution is to get the Williamson County Convention Visitors Bureau funding from the county back to the level that was envisioned back when Mayor Anderson convened the Tourism Task Force several years ago. And we appreciate your support.
All right. Commissioner Hayes?
We have some honored guests in our audience today. May I ask them please to stand? If you're a member of the CVB Convention Visitors Bureau Board, would you please stand? Miss Mary, just hold your hand up. We're so honored to have Miss Mills here tonight, yes. And on the staff, please stand, yes. We have the best staff in the world and the best board, and we're very proud of them and thank them for their hard work. And they've helped us bring tourism from a growth of, in past 4 years, the tourism spending in Williamson County increased by 18%. In the past 4 years, lodging collections have increased by 11%. And in the past 4 years, tourism traffic to our visitor center has grown by 132%. This is a reinvestment. When you give money for marketing, we are asking for a total next year for 25%, 21% this year, and you will get back the remainder of that for our general fund. So for every dollar we bring, you're going to get money back. And so it's an investment for everybody. We all win-win. And I must say that we wouldn't have much tourism in Williamson County if it were not for Aubrey Preston, who is out there too. So Aubrey, raise your hand. He has developed many of the tours that go across the county, and we very much appreciate that. So with that, we certainly encourage your support of this resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Hayes. Commissioner Cook?
I just wanted to say how wonderful the CVB is and how far they've come and how far they're going to go, and I hope everyone votes yes.
Any other discussion? I see none. You ready to vote? Yes, he did. Should I tell him why he left? Are you ready?
They're voting.
Oh, okay. Am I ready?
Are you ready? That's the
If
question.
all in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. And anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Yes.
If I may. As chairman of the Williamson County Convention Visitors Bureau, I want to thank everyone who supported this, whether you signed on or just helped get us to this point. Mayor Moore was here earlier. Mayor Anderson mentioned that. He is also on our board. And I want to thank the City of Franklin for their consistent support over the last few very difficult years. We appreciate the support of Mayor Anderson and this commission over the last few very difficult years. We've recognized the board that are here and the staff. Let me make one comment about to give you a heads up. I don't want anybody to be surprised. Over the next few weeks and months, by happy coincidence, you will likely see us moving from our small offices over Merides and moving the visitor center from the tiny McPhail offices to locations that are more suitable and more central to downtown tourism activities. This is not related to the resolution before us tonight. It just happened coincidentally in terms of timing. And our commitment to Mayor Anderson and in turn this commission is that any additional funding this year from the county will be focused on our mission, which is to bring in tourists who will spend their money and increase the overall revenue available to the county. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that and to clarify that for you. This resolution, we thank you for your support. It's a huge step in enabling the Convention Visitors Bureau to be the most effective tourism bureau in our state. We appreciate your support. We want to wish Mark Shore a happy birthday. Today is his birthday. So thank you all for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Moving on. Resolution 512-1, resolution amending the 2011-2012 general purpose school fund operating budget, $450,000 through an category adjustment for gasoline.
Move for approval.
Mr. Jones. Second. Commissioner Barnwell, the second. School Board, 12 yes, 0 no. Education Committee.
It was approved 4-0 against as amended. Wait, 6-0 as amended.
Okay. Do you wish to make the amendment?
Yes, I would like to make the amendment to raise this to $550,000.
Commissioner Barnwell, the second. Okay. Proper motion. Let's see, Budget Committee.
5-0 against as amended.
Okay. And your amendment, Budget Committee's amendment was the same. Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? I see none. Is it loaded, Linda? All right, the amendment's loaded. If you're in favor of the amendment, which would raise the monies to $550,000, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote.
Harry?
Now, did you want to change your vote? Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
Okay, 21 yes, 0 no.
We're back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion on the main motion as amended? I've seen none. Are you ready to vote? Are you ready, Linda? All in favor of Resolution 512-1 as amended, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time.
Oh, sorry.
Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
Okay. 21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution 512-2, resolution appropriating $13,000 for tutors and related expenses from United Way grant. Commissioner Jones?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Langston, the second. School Board, 12 yes, 0 no. Education Committee,
4-0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Jones.
This is a grant, requires no monetary match for tutors.
Any discussion? I see none. You ready to vote? All in favor of Resolution 512-2, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 512-4, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 juvenile services budget by $15,000, revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds received from participant fees.
Approval.
Commissioner Hancock. Commissioner Cook, the second. Law Enforcement Committee,
6 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is fees that are collected with drug screening, and they're going to, the expenditures, they're going to buy supplies and materials with it.
Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? All in favor of Resolution 512-4, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson. Resolution passes. Resolution 512-5, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Sheriff's Department budget by $225,000, $963 for the purchase of new Sheriff's Department vehicles, revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Cook, the second. Law Enforcement,
6 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a start on that number of cars that the sheriff had mentioned to us a couple of meetings back, and he met with Mayor Anderson, and they came up with this formula for starting this process. The revenues are coming from unappropriated county general funds, and they'll purchase 8 new cars.
Commissioner Danner.
I just have a question. I know this is and this relates to how I'm going to vote on the capital in schools. My understanding was I needed 44 cars. This buys not, this and the next resolution purchases 9 cars total. I'd like to know what the plan is to, are we going to purchase all of them this year? Well, what's the plan to, are we going to have to borrow more bond money for sheriff's cars?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, what we will do, we're taking this out of this year's pot of money, then in July you all will see an appropriation. The next resolution, you'll see some additional money for cars, and then in July we'll make another appropriation, and then this time next year we will make the balance of that. He had originally requested 40, but that was also based upon some new personnel, and the HR committee went through that process, and he agreed to the 36 cars instead of the 40 cars. Now, as he said in the meeting, he'd take all the cars he can get, but he signed off on this, and he was comfortable with it.
So the answer to my question for borrowing more bond money, we don't see that. It's going to be built in, the rest of the cars will be built into next year's budget, his budget.
next year is to replenish some of our capital, our fund balance, that we'll be able to purchase the rest of them. But I make no promises until next year's budget rolls around. We will get the automobiles.
Any other discussion? I see none. If you're ready to vote, Resolution 512-5, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Judy? Herbert? There we go. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 512-6, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Sheriff's Office budget by $54,338, revenues to come from other direct federal revenue. Commissioner Hancock?
Second.
Commissioner Little, the second. Law Enforcement Committee? 6 in favor, 0 against. Budget Committee?
5 for, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this comes from the Department of Justice Asset Forfeiture Program, and it's revenues of $54,338, and I think they're going to use that to buy 2 vehicles. It doesn't say that on it, but I believe it's 2.
I believe you're correct.
So it'll be 8 in the last one, 2 in this one, that's 10.
Any questions? See none, you're ready to vote. Resolution 512-6, if you're in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, the no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 512-7, resolution appropriating $100,000 in the general purpose school fund budget from current revenues for related trustee commission. Commissioner Jones?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Langston, second. School Board, 11 yes, 0 no. Education Committee?
6 yes, 0 no.
Budget Committee?
5 yes, 0 no.
Explanation, Commissioner Jones.
This is where there's additional $100,000 and they need to move it into a line item from the actual and the estimates.
All right. Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of Resolution 512-7, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button.
I need one of those voting sticks.
Maybe a voting hammer. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 512-8, resolution appropriating funds from the Central Cafeteria Fund for indirect costs. Commissioner Jones?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Little, the second. School Board, 11 yes, 0 no. Education Committee?
6 for, 0 against.
Budget Committee?
5 for, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Jones?
Cafeteria fund is self-sufficient, and this is just some costs. I think it was for an increase in lunches and things such as that, but, well, if you need any explanation as to exactly what it is, Dr. Looney's still here.
Any discussion? I see none. You ready to vote? Resolution 512-8, if you're in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 512-9, resolution appropriating $49,053 in the 2011-12 Extended School Program Fund for additional expenses through end of the year.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Davis, the second. School Board, 11 yes, 0 no. Education Committee,
6-4-0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Jones.
This is a self-sufficient child care extended school program needing this extra money.
Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of 5-12-9, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote? Commissioner Danner? Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 5-12-11, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Sheriff's Department budget by $5,000, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Hancock?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Cook, the second. Law Enforcement Committee,
6 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Mr. Chairman, this is a donation from an individual, and she has donated this. It's just one of several she's made over the past few months and years, and it's to buy equipment for the SWAT team.
Very good. Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? Resolution 5-12-11, if you're in favor, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 5-12-12, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Williamson County General Sessions Court budget by $5,000, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Hancock,
Move for approval.
Commissioner Wilson, the second. Law Enforcement Committee,
6 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a donation from the Restorative Justice Foundation to the DUI court. And I don't know what the court's going to do with the money, but this is a donation to them. Expenditures, contract goes to David. Betsy, you know what y'all going to do with that? Somebody, excuse me, Judge Andre. I might.
Chairman, Commissioners, this is to assist us with our DUI court program. Primarily, we're going to use the funds to purchase some furnishings for our case manager. He's basically operating off of a makeshift desk at this time, and also for filing cabinets and other necessities for the program. So appreciate your support.
Thank you, Judge.
Any questions? I see none. Resolution 5-12-12, if you're in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Commissioner Smith? Anyone wish to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 5-12-13, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 WCTV budget by $1,850, revenues to come from unappropriated fund balance received from sale of videos. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval. Second.
Commissioner Chalfant, the second. Budget Committee,
5-4-0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Bain.
This is WCTV, our government Channel 3 station, revenues to come from sale of videos.
All right. Any discussion on Resolution 5-12-13? I see none. You ready to vote? All in favor of 5-12-13, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51214, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Parks and Recreation budget by $1,250, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Green, the second. Parks and Rec Committee? Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Bain.
This is revenues to come from donations.
Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of 51214, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51215, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Parks and Rec budget by $23,504, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Green, the second. Parks and Rec Committee?
Parks, excuse me, Parks and Rec, 4-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Bain.
Parks and Rec revenues to come from donations.
Any discussion? I see none. If you're in favor of Resolution 51215, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51216, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Parks and Rec budget by $7,513.25, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Bain?
I move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Green, the second. Parks and Rec Committee?
Parks and Rec, 4-4-0 against.
Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Bain.
Again, revenues for Parks and Rec to come from donations.
Any discussion? I see none. You ready to vote on Resolution 51216? If you're in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51217, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Veteran Services budget by $1,600, revenues to come from memorial brick pavers. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Chalfant, second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against. Money to come from brick pavers.
Okay. Commissioner Hayes?
In that last whereas, the 2020-12 Memorial Day service rather
Yes,
than
we did.
2011.
The clerk has corrected it as a typo.
Oh, okay, very good, thank you.
Any other discussion? I see none. Ready to vote? If you're in favor of Resolution 51217, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Commissioner Hancock? There you go. Good deal. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51218, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Information Technology budget by $260,000, revenues to come from county general fund balance. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Little, the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Bain.
Mr. Coleman, you do such a good job on this one. Besides, you look a little sleepy back there.
Mr. Chairman, this is a follow-up of a procedure that we've already accomplished in this building where we've swapped out all of our phone system to the voice over IP phone system through the computers. When we do that, we eliminate the AT&T phone bills, and save the money. And we were able to do that in this building by just taking each person's department's communications budget and doing that early in the year and capturing those dollars. What we want to do here is go out to the outlying areas that we've not done yet, the sheriff's department, the courthouse, Parks and Rec, and I don't think it's mentioned on here, but also animal control. So we're upfronting the money to do this, but we'll gain it back in the savings over probably the next couple of years.
Any questions for Mr. Coleman? I see none. You ready to vote? All in favor of Resolution 51218, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to, let's see, Commissioner Hester?
Just revote.
Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51221, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 library budget by $40,976.64, revenues to come from miscellaneous donations.
Move for approval.
Langston, Commissioner Langston, the second. Library Board,
7-4, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4, 0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Barnwell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is money we've received from various sources. City of Franklin, the Library Foundation has given us a big chunk of money for our summer reading, children's reading program, and this is just getting it into the system so we can spend it.
All right, any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? All in favor of 51221, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button.
It's done.
Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21
Resolution passes. Resolution 51225, resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 juvenile court clerk's budget by $12,796 for the purchase of computer software, revenues to come from reserve account. Commissioner Hancock?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Cook, the second. Law Enforcement Committee,
5 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4, 0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
This is the one I thought we had a while ago, Betsy. This is the juvenile clerk's office. They're buying software, I believe, automated. Is that right, Betsy? Buying software, yeah. Okay, and the money's coming from Reserve Juvenile Court Fund.
All right. Any discussion? See none. Resolution 51225, if you're in favor, push the yes button. Opposed, your no button.
You have to vote.
Way to go.
Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Health Department budget by $2,750, revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Wilson,
Yes, I move for approval.
Commissioner Cook, the second. Public Health Committee,
5-4, 0 against.
Budget Committee, Commissioner Bain.
5-4, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Wilson.
Basically, these are donations that have come in to cover for the program that was done. It was a health council for Walk Across Williamson County, and I think they had quite a few people in 9 weeks that accomplished this, about 10 miles per week, I understand. And so these are revenues that came from that particular program.
Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of Resolution 51227, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote or their battery, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution 51228, a resolution authorizing the issuance of interest-bearing county district school bond anticipation notes in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $2,700,000 of Williamson County, Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said notes, establishing the terms thereof, and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of and interest on the notes. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Little, second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against. Mr. Coleman, we're going to need your help again.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just go ahead and address these next two resolutions because they are for the same things. This is the money that you approved a couple of months ago for the capital projects for schools of $6.7 million. We do not have a bond issue scheduled at this point. So what we're going to do is go out into the open market here with our local banks and borrow these funds temporarily for a period of no less than 6 months and no longer than 18 months. We feel like if not this fall, by next fall, we'll probably be looking at bond issue for schools, and we'll just roll that in at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Commissioner Danner?
Answered it. Do you see anything else that we're going to have to borrow bond money for this budget year between now and July? Are we going to have to borrow bond money for, do you know of any other department that's come to us that's going to have capital that's going to require a vote to borrow, to add more money to our debt?
Commissioner, I don't at this time. We are looking Thursday night at capital requests from all the county general departments, but it's anticipated that we'll be able to handle all those through fund balance.
Okay.
Commissioner Ryan?
Chairman, Mr. Coleman, two questions for you very quickly, and this is in regard to both this resolution and the next. I know a couple months ago, my understanding was that these two resolutions essentially stretched us about as thin as we can go in terms of taking out additional bonds. Is that still the case?
Yes, sir. There's nothing happened that would change that at this point in time. As is the case most years, we will not know what our final fund balance is until we close out this year. We'll have a much better feel for that in July, and hopefully at your meeting in July, we'll have a little better feel for what the fund balance is and what we can do in the future. But I'm still comfortable with this amount of money, and as Commissioner Danner mentioned a moment ago, I don't see anything else to write immediately that we're going to be borrowing any more funds for.
Sure. And then the follow-up, and this may not be a fair question for you, Mr. Coleman, but do you know essentially what we're going to have to pay on a monthly basis for these two bonds?
I haven't calculated that, and I hesitate to mention interest rates until we get our bids in, but I do think we'll get some very favorable interest rates on this money.
Thank you.
And we have adjusted our debt service budget for next year for what we anticipate the interest payments to be.
Any other discussion? I see none. If you're in favor of Resolution 51228, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
20 yes and 1 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51229, a resolution authorizing the issuance of interest-bearing general obligation school bond anticipation notes in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $4,100,000 of Williamson County, Tennessee, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said notes, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of and interest on the notes. Commissioner Bain? Commissioner Little, the second. Any discussion on this one? I see none. You ready to vote? All in favor of Resolution 51229, push your yes button. Opposed, push your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
20 yes, 1 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2011-12 Chancery Court Clerk and Master's budget by $5,000 for additional postage. Revenues to come from unappropriated county general funds. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Little, the second. Budget Committee?
5-4-0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Bain.
Additional postage from unappropriated county general funds.
All right. Any discussion? I see none. If you're in favor of Resolution 51230, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wish to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Late file Resolution 51232, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of State Division of Elections and amending the 2011-12 Election Commission budget by $139,700, revenues to come from state grant funds. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval.
Second. Proper motion, Commissioner Chalafant, the second. Explanation, Commissioner Bain.
This is state grant money to the election division.
Any discussion? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of Resolution 51232, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution to permit the serving of, resolution passes. Resolution 512-3, resolution to permit the serving of alcoholic beverages at the Agriculture Exposition Park for an event of the Franklin Noon Rotary Club. Commissioner Smith?
Approval. Second.
Commissioner Langston, the second. Property Committee?
3 for, 1 against, and 1 abstain.
Budget Committee?
4 for, 1 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Friday night of the rodeo, the Franklin Rotary Club is hosting the annual conference of District 6760 of Rotary, which encompasses clubs from Middle Tennessee all the way to West Tennessee, and there will be several hundred people in town. They will actually be in town Friday and Saturday, and but on Friday night they're coming to the rodeo in lieu of their normal banquet that they have when they have their meeting at other places. And so we would do this only on Friday night in the banquet room, only to those members attending the annual conference for the District 6760.
Very good. Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? In favor of 512-3, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
16 yes, 2 no, 3 abstain.
Resolution passes. I just want to make a comment, and I believe it was this morning's Tennessean online, they had history from 1963, and they had a lot of photographs from the 13th annual Franklin Rodeo. So I thought it was interesting, and just, I love it.
Everybody come out Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
There you go. All right. Resolution 51210, resolution to increase funding to the Williamson County Convention and Visitors. Oh, we've already done that.
No, we did that one already.
Moving right along. That was almost
We'll take
yesterday.
more.
Resolution 51219, resolution authorizing the county mayor to execute a non-exclusive use agreement with Main Event Decorators Incorporated for equipment to be used during the Keep Williamson Beautiful Living Green Expo. Commissioner Hayes?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Cook, the second. Budget Committee?
5 for, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Hayes.
A couple of months back, you approved money for our Living Green Expo that will be returned to the county in the way of sponsorships and vendor fees. This is giving us permission to enter agreement for pipes and drapes and other things that we have to set up for the Living Green Expo, and we have to enter in prior to the actual happening and collecting the money.
Very good. Any questions? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of Resolution 51219, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51222, a resolution to approve the appointment of the county purchasing agent by the county mayor. Commissioner Hancock?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Little, the second. Purchasing and Insurance Committee?
They were 4 for and 0 against.
Budget Committee?
5 for, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Mr. Chairman, I think this was one that we're just codifying something that's been doing it this way for several years, but got some certificates and things that they didn't have, so making it official now.
Very good.
Approve purchasing agent.
Okay. Any other discussion? I see none. You ready to vote? If you're in favor of Resolution 51222, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Ms. Mitchell's in the audience. If she'd like to stand for anybody that doesn't know her, stand up, Leslie. Yeah, appreciate you hanging in there all night. Resolution 51224, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to execute a contract between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and Williamson County for a trash collecting grant for fiscal year 2012-2013. Commissioner Hancock?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Cook, the second. Law Enforcement Committee?
5 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee?
5 for, 0 against.
Explanation, Commissioner Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is just a contract that the county mayor enters into every year to authorize the duties that'll be done and get the grant funds for the trash pickup. Litter and trash collection grant.
Any discussion? I see none. You ready to vote? Resolution 51224. If you're in favor, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button.
Yes, what did I do?
Hit your
I pressed it. There it goes.
There you go.
Press it hard.
Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51226, resolution approving adoption of a private act creating a special juvenile court in Williamson County. Commissioner Bain?
Move for approval. Second.
Commissioner Chalfant, the second. Law enforcement,
5 in favor, 0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4, 0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Bain.
This is the resolution that we unanimously adopted back in, I think it was February, but it went to the General Assembly, they approved it, and they're sending it back to us for our approval to create a special juvenile court.
Any discussion? I see none. This will require a 2/3 vote. If you're in favor of Resolution 51226, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 51231, resolution authorizing the county mayor to enter into a 2012-13 contractual agreement with the state of Tennessee for $1,125,200 for local health services. Commissioner Wilson,
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hester, the second. Public Health Committee,
5-4-0 against.
Budget Committee,
5-4, 0 against.
explanation, Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, this is grant money from the state of Tennessee, and this also, we learned, it is funding some positions, it is some additional part-time people, and actually includes the raise that would be for everyone else that is in the employee range. So I suggest and hope that you will approve this.
All right. Any questions? I see none. If you're in favor of Resolution 51231, push your yes button. Opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, do so at this time. Record the vote, Ms. Anderson.
21 yes, 0 no.
All right. Resolution passes. Mayor Anderson?
To mention in my remarks earlier tonight, if you would put on your calendar for Memorial Day, 2 weeks from today, the services that we have every year will start at 10 o'clock at 5 Points. Again, that is a period of time that lasts about 40 to 45 minutes. If you've never had the opportunity to do that, I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Just to be aware, I don't know if he wanted me to tell you or not, but Commissioner Hawkins' wife's having a baby in the morning, so that's why he left early. So we'll wish him the best.
If he didn't want you to tell him, it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late now.
Mr. Chairman, I can't top that, but I found out yesterday I'm going to be a grandfather again.
All right.
Well, I'm glad you didn't top that.
Well, I can't top that either, but
So am I.
I've got my first one on the way, so.
Thank you, everybody.
I'll entertain a motion to